Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Love Hour podcast. I'm your host, MrsKevOnStage, and noticeably absent is my dear husband, KevOnStage. He is actually on an airplane right now because we've had a very interesting night where our plane was grounded from Jacksonville, Florida, en route to Atlanta. We were diverted to Savannah, Georgia because of weather. We were there for about 3 hours. We refueled, got back in the air to make it to Atlanta, and then we missed our connecting flight. It was wonderful. It was a complete waste of time, actually, because we went there to see my nephew run in the Junior Olympics, and it rained, thundered, and lightning. Rain we can do. Thunder and lightning no can do. So they had all the athletes get up, remove themselves from the track, go back to their vehicles with their parents. And by the time we came back, we had to go catch a flight.
Oh,
it was a complete waste of time. A complete waste of time. And then all of that rigmarole happened between trying to get from Jacksonville, from Jacksonville to LA. We ended up going to Savannah, Atlanta, stayed overnight in Atlanta. I am here, and Kevin and my boys, we were on different flights. And so it just ended up being a whole mess. So he's not here. However, I do have a very special guest here with me. Pronounce your last name for me, Julie.
Menanno.
Okay, I was going to say it right. We have Julie Menanno here with me. She is actually, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself. How about that?
That sounds good. So I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, as well as a licensed clinical professional counselor. The irony of that is I was educated in California, where the LMFT, which is the licensed marriage and family therapist, is the god of all master's levels licenses. So I had to get an LMFT because that's what the bulk of the programs are in California. And I was so resentful of having to get a licensed marriage and family therapist license because I did not want to work with couples. It was the absolute last thing I wanted to do. Many LMFTs work with individuals. So I was very resentful of that. But within a year after graduating, I was specializing in couples, and now that's my passion. So
I love it. Isn't that so interesting how things kind of work out that way, where you think you're headed one direction and then life takes you on a completely different, and you look back on it. I'm sure you're grateful for the kind of diversions.
Yes, very grateful.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so this is what's happening, Julie. We have been doing, my husband and I just recently celebrated 17 years of marriage on the 26th of June. And from there, we were giving every year actually for about, I think I want to say I started at year 12. So it's been a while on the podcast where I share the lessons that I've learned specifically over the previous 365 days. Mm-hmm. And as we were doing this last set of lessons, we started talking about trust and vulnerability and just a whole list of things. And I actually been following your page for a while, and a couple, actually, can you give people your Instagram page as well, just really quickly?
Sure. It's the secure relationship. I want to say .com, but there's no .com on Instagram.
Yeah. So I had
at the secure relationship.
Yes, on Instagram. And I had been following your page and I just follow a lot of like LMFT style accounts, mental health style accounts as well on Instagram. And someone suggested, Melissa, you guys should probably do an episode on attachment styles, attachment theory. And I was like, yes, we should. And of course I reached out. I'm always following people just for my own accord, but then it's always great to kind of bring some of the knowledge that I've learned just in scrolling onto our podcast and allowing our audience in on that. And so that's kind of what brought this about. And some of our specific stories and the things that my husband and I have been, I'm trying to think of the right word, reconciling is the word I'm going to use. Some things that we realized, we were married very young, Julie. Okay. We got married at 20 and 21. We met at 16. Wow. And so, yeah, we've been together a long time. I just turned 38.
Oh my goodness.
Or 37.
Okay.
37 or 38, I don't remember at this point.
So after you hit 35, it's over.
Yeah,
You
it's
don't,
like, girl, how old
yeah,
am I again? 37, 38, one of the two.
yeah.
And so we've been together a very long time. And what we realized is that some of the things that we thought we were doing right when we were younger, we did not do right.
Mhm.
And you learn as you get older and you evolve and you grow that there's some wounds that have developed over time that you uncover. And so we're going through that healing process.
Okay.
From that, I've started thinking about, from this comment, as someone said, Melissa, you 38. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, girl, 38. We started thinking about of course, we started couples therapy, and they're always asking these questions about like, how you grew up, and have you ever thought about how this ties from when you were 5 and how you're responding right now? And your mind is always kind of the emoji like this. And so what I thought we could do here is discuss, first of all, the whole kind of baseline definition of what the attachment theory is. And then we can talk about, I'll just kind of give you some examples of how some of the things my husband's gone through affects us today, and how some of the things I've gone through as a child affects us today, because I think that's the part that will help people the most. Since we are a love and relationship podcast, I think that'll be the most relevant for people. So let's start with, what is the attachment theory?
All right. So the attachment theory, it's a pretty broad term, right? So I'm going to just kind of go into the way that I think is the most organized way to explain it to folks. And if I start getting into too much detail for what your goal is here, just pull me back in.
Okay.
And I always try to be very thorough, but sometimes I
it.
know in certain platforms, thorough isn't exactly what people are looking for.
Okay.
So to understand attachment theory, there's 4 things that we really need to understand. We need to understand 1, attachment bond; 2, the attachment behavioral system; 3, attachment needs; and 4, attachment styles. So for attachment theory to be relevant, there has to be an attachment bond between 2 people.
Okay.
So if you don't have an attachment bond with someone, you might have some attachment issues show up with them, like the person at the market, but that's more of a projection of old attachment stuff from your past. It's not really that you have a bond with that person.
Okay.
So attachment theory really exists between a relationship in which 2 people are relying on each other for emotional needs, emotional support, to be teammates in life, for physical affection, the opportunity to be supportive. We're relying on a person, a special person, usually a loved one, a loved romantic partner, for the good things in life, for the good emotional things, the connection, the things that everybody kind of dreams of when they imagine being in a relationship. We're also relying on them to avoid the bad things, such as loneliness. For there to be an attachment bond, there has to be a fear of losing that person. There has to be a fear there that if you were to lose them, then you would feel very sad and empty, and you would have to go through a grieving process. So go ahead.
So this can be, I know obviously as a love and relationship podcast, we're talking very specifically about like your significant other, but when you're talking about bonds, you're not just talking, your parents can be that bond, your siblings can be that bond, right? Friends can be that bond.
Yes. So when we are the first bond, the first area where this takes place is between child and caregiver.
Okay.
Okay. And that is where the attachment system is most profound and dramatic. And then research has shown that adults in romantic relationships repeat the attachment style and bond with their romantic partner that is very similar to the style that they had with their caregivers growing up. Now, outside of that context, when we start looking at siblings and friends, there are attachment elements there, but it's not as powerful as the romantic relationship.
Okay, got it.
So it's really the caregiver-child relationship and the partner relationship.
Got it. And you're saying, oh, wait, that kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, and now I got to do some more evaluating.
Yeah, please.
What you just said, though, is that your caregiver relationship to you often mirrors the relationship that you have with your partner, the romantic relationship you have with your partner.
As a child, yes, in early childhood, your style of attachment with your earliest caregivers will be mirrored a lot of the time. I mean, this is statistics, there's
Sure.
always exceptions, but there has been a lot of really supportive research that will be mirrored by the quality of the relationship. And what it really hinges on is how responsive was your caregiver to you when you needed comfort and support, comfort from distress and an emotional connection.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
following with you.
All right. So this kind of segues into what's called the attachment behavioral system.
Okay.
And this is very, very important. And this is what that is it's a brain body drive that we have in our bodies to avoid danger and to feel comfortable and safe with our other close humans. And this is all rooted in the fact that primitive humans could not survive the wild alone. So we were driven to stay safe. And modern humans still have that in our DNA, and it predominantly is going to show up in the romantic attachment.
Okay.
And I like to give the analogy of the appetite system, right? Because what happens is when you're hungry, you're driven to eat.
Yes.
Because A, you're avoiding pain and death. You're avoiding the discomfort of being hungry, and you're avoiding dying by not eating. Mm-hmm. And B, you're seeking something that feels really good, which is food. Okay. And so if you don't mind, I'd like to do a really quick little exercise with you to kind of get the felt experience of the attachment behavioral system.
Okay. I love exercises.
Okay. All right. So I want you to close your eyes, or you don't have to close your eyes if you want to. And I want you to imagine you and Kevin in this, and for our listeners, whoever your romantic partner is, or a past romantic partner. And I want you to imagine just being in an environment where it's beautiful and you feel close and connected and you feel so loved and you feel so cared for. And you know that Kevin feels like he's your hero and he's getting it right for you. And everything is just good between the two of you. The stars are really aligned. And as you do this, I want to know if you can kind of tap inside of your body and notice if there's any relaxation, if there's any kind of sense of warmth going through you. And so you're nodding your head. I could see you nodding your head. So I'm going to assume that yes. I mean, even in my body, I'm not really going there because I'm asking the questions, but I can even feel that relaxed, warm kind of feeling.
My shoulders definitely relaxed. I even felt my breathing calm a little bit.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Okay, now I'm going to be really mean, and I'm going to ask you to go to the negative place. And now, for all the people who are listening right now, this might not be safe for you if you're grieving, or if you're raw, or if you've suffered a breakup. So just, take care of yourself. But for those of you who feel safe, I want you to go to the opposite of that place in your body. And I want you to imagine a big fight, and Kevin is the enemy, and you feel uncared for and invalidated and unheard, and you're so frustrated. And I know everybody is going to feel that one, right? So we're tensing up. Your stomach.
My mouth can't stop being angry.
Yeah. Yes, that's it. What's happening is you're going into fight or flight, right? Mm-hmm. That is it. That's the attachment behavioral system. You just felt it. Okay. We're driven toward the good, which is that first experience. We want that. We seek that. And we're driven toward avoiding the second experience.
Okay, got it.
Right? That second experience is an attachment rupture. Now, I want you to close your eyes and go back to the good stuff.
Okay.
So we can get out of that bad stuff. Let's get out of that negative energy. So everything's good. You're feeling held. You're feeling heard and understood, and all is well. All right. So got that back a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's it. I mean, that's the attachment behavioral system. John Bowlby discovered this when he started studying many, many cultures all over the world. And what he found is that Babies are going to stay safe with their parents in any way possible. They're going to seek proximity to their parents, and they're going to have this drive to do that. And that drive keeps them alive and it keeps them comfortable. Okay. Now, when we think about the attachment behavioral system and we go back to that analogy of appetite, well, we know what we need when we're hungry, right?
Yep.
We need food. What do we need when our attachment behavioral system activates? Well, that's where attachment needs come into play. Okay. So it's when our specific attachment needs are met that you get that good feeling.
Got it.
And when they're not met, you're going to get that yucky feeling.
Got it. All right. We're going to take a break right here before we go into this next part and hear a word from the Love Hour sponsors. Honey child, do you need a break? Because I need a break. Julie is reading us, and I'm here to tell you about one of my good friends. Okay, one of my good girlfriends, and her name is Honey. Okay, she is the one that's going to bring you all of the promos, all of the discount codes, all of the coupon codes. You don't have to worry about memorizing codes. You don't have to remember to go out here, there, and everywhere. You ever get to a place and you're like, God dog it, I know I have a coupon somewhere, but you can't remember. Honey is like, don't worry, girl. I'm the elephant in the room. I got it. I'm going to find it. I remember. It's no problem. When you check out, Honey button drops down and all you have to do is click apply coupons. Wait a few seconds as Honey searches for coupons it can find for that site. If Honey finds a working coupon, you just simply watch the price drop. Honey has found over 17 million members, over $2 billion in savings. I am launching the Love on Stage dating show. So I'm constantly looking for the most up-to-date wardrobe items. And I went onto a site where I found some clothes, a retail site where I found some items that I liked. And before I got to the end, I was like, Lord Jesus, this stuff is a little expensive. Can I find a little bit of discounts? And Honey said, don't worry, boo, I got you. Okay. She went out, she got me some free shipping. I said, thank you, Honey. Thank you, girl. Because a little money saved is a little money extra in my pocket. And I am never, ever, ever above saving some money. You hear me? If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out on free savings. It's literally free and installs in a few seconds. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this podcast. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/love. That's joinhoney.com/love. Now let's get back to the show. And we are back. Thanks so much to the Love Hour sponsors. Okay, Julie, continue.
All right. So what we were saying is that when you're hungry, you need to eat food. And when your attachment system is activated and you're in a state of attachment distress with your loved one, with your partner, what you're needing is your attachment needs to be met. Okay. Here, there aren't that many attachment needs, which is interesting considering how many different relationships there are out in the world, right? But for the most part, humans need a very short list of things to feel safe with their partner. And that is to feel loved, to feel cared for, to feel appreciated, to feel successful in your partner's eyes, to feel seen, heard, and understood, to feel emotionally validated, to feel that your needs matter to your partner, and to feel that your partner loves themselves. And I might not have listed all of them, but those are the main ones that I see in my practice being shaken up and causing trouble. Right.
What is so interesting is that there was a couple of those. I was like, oh, so I'm not crazy. Oh, I didn't know that was one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's one as well. What you're actually saying is things that I've said aloud that I didn't realize was me calling out for my emotional need to be met. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like saying, I feel like you don't see me. If you guys listen to this podcast, you guys have heard me say this a gazillion times. I feel like you don't hear me all the time. I feel like you don't see me. These are complaints, so to speak, that I would say. I would have never put the words together that it is an emotional need that I'm seeing I'm missing.
So let me just validate that for you right now. You're not crazy. You're a human.
Oh, don't make me cry, Julie.
I'm pretty good at that. Let's talk. Tell me a good joke.
Oh man, that really got me.
Yeah, this is really powerful stuff. Yeah, I mean, we all need that. We all need to feel these needs are met to feel safe and cared for and loved and close,
That's good.
right?
Okay.
And yes, I always like to say to feel safe and close.
To feel safe and
Feel
close.
safe and close. When you feel safe and close, that means your attachment needs are met. And then it's like, okay, well, am I supposed to walk around the relationship with my attachment needs met 100% of the time? How does that work? Well, I like to describe it like this. We have climate and we have weather, right? So the west side of LA has one, pretty much the best climate in the world, right? It's 75 degrees every day, 70, 75 degrees every day. And for the most part, things feel really good. But we also have weather. And sometimes there's a rainstorm. Sometimes there's a really super cold day.
I love
Sometimes
this
there's a really,
analogy.
yeah, there's a super hot day. Sometimes there's a wildfire that makes things smoky, right? So what I want to see with couples is I want to see the climate of their relationship
That's good.
with the vast majority of the time their attachment needs are met. That is a realistic expectation. Attachment needs are going to go unmet sometimes, just like you're going to get hungry sometimes. Just because you eat a hamburger on Tuesday, that hamburger is not going to still be with you on Friday.
That's
Right?
good.
Yeah. So basically, what needs to happen is when these attachment needs get offline and something happens, and Kevin snaps at you, and you feel unloved or uncared for in that moment, and then you say to him, and I'm just being hypothetical here, him, "You're such a jerk," and then he doesn't know what he did wrong, and now he feels like a bad guy. So now his attachment need is not met, right? So now you both are in this state of having unmet attachment needs. You guys got to learn how to repair that and get that back on board. And when couples don't know how to repair those, they just build up and they get worse over time. So the difference between a happy couple and a struggling couple is how quickly can you repair these attachment wounds, which are when these needs go unmet.
Okay. Hold on, Julie. Hold on. You said a lot. First of all,
it's a lot.
No, but it's a lot of good stuff, and I'm making a lot of connections. So, thing number one, I'm just do a recap just real quick because I got to download everything that's going on in my brain.
Got it. I'm here.
There's only a handful of emotional needs that as human beings we need.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have that list somewhere on your Instagram?
Yeah, actually I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to find it and repost it so that we all can find our emotional needs. Once you find those emotional needs, I would imagine that the next part, once you're able to identify, okay, these are my emotional needs. Is that how you would say it? These are the things that I need to feel emotionally safe?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The terms attachment needs and emotional needs are kind of interchangeable.
Okay, got it. When you do that, I'm pivoting a little bit because a question immediately came to my mind.
Sure.
How do you, what's the word I'm looking for, articulate or have like the action for your partner to meet that need? Because sometimes the struggle in the repair is that I don't really know what to tell you except this ain't working for me.
Sure. Right.
So how do you get over, how do you articulate and move to like, please, like, this is what I need you to do?
Okay. So the way that has to happen is what's called getting out of the negative cycle.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the concept of the negative cycle?
Are you talking about Gottman?
No, Gottman does a little bit of it, but it's more of a Sue Johnson. Are you familiar with Sue Johnson?
I love Sue Johnson. I want her to be on the podcast. In case you're listeing, Sue Johnson, I want you to be on the podcast. But no, I'm not familiar.
You'll never need me again. No, so for the most part, I practice emotionally focused therapy for couples.
Oh, EFT, got it.
Absolutely, which was created by Sue Johnson. And Sue Johnson didn't actually invent the concept of the negative cycle. As far as I know, Harriet Lerner invented it, who was someone back in the 80s. I don't know if you've heard of the book, The Dance of Anger or The Dance of Intimacy, but that's the first I ever, I know of. But Sue Johnson really took it to another level. And the negative cycle is when, so I want you to imagine that there's two layers of a conversation taking place. You're talking about my need for you to meet my needs up here, right?
Okay.
That's like the content,
Okay.
or who's going to take the trash out, or where are we going to send the kids to school, or, you know, any number of things. Where are we going to go on vacation? Any number of things that couples are talking about. We have that on the surface.
Okay.
Underneath that, we have the emotional climate and safety of the conversation.
Got the message and the meta message.
Exactly. Yes.
Got
So
it.
we need for, if this undercurrent is not healthy, meaning if attachment needs aren't being met in the process of the conversation, nobody's going to get anywhere. So if you're telling your partner, I need this, and they're saying, well, I need this, but what about you? Well, what about me? It doesn't matter that you're never going to meet each other's needs because you're in the process of not doing it.
Correct. Correct. Yes.
I've ever said that one. Yeah. Okay. So the key is to learn safe communication, really, you know, safe ways to, not only safe communication and how to communicate your needs from a place of self, away from criticism, away from accusation, away from blame. But the other partner also has to be able to receive without getting overwhelmed and shutting down, without getting defensive. Okay, so there's a whole lot more I have to say right now. So you help guide me here.
Okay, so let's give an example.
Okay,
so let's give this example. If I say I recognize that my emotional need is feeling safe, but also feeling seen, heard, and validated. I even think when you said, you know, let me validate, I think it triggered me, if that's the right word, resonated maybe is a better word, because I recognize that is one of the things that feeling like overlooked or overshadowed or whatever is a very sensitive trigger for me. I know that when things happen and I'm like, ooh, Melissa, that's a trigger, girl. You gotta, like, that's a trigger. Like, so how you gonna get over it? Sometimes in that moment, and I've said this before, I'm really good just from what I've kind of on my own. I don't have no degrees or certifications or nothing, but just on my own learning, research, having people on the podcast, I'm very easily able to recognize my trigger, but my shutdown mode is that's what I do. If I don't feel like I can articulate, or if I don't feel like you will hear what I have to say, I immediately shut down. So that kind of dance of like, I know I need to say something, but then I also don't want to make you feel bad about making me feel bad. So I'll just hold my feel bad by not saying anything to you. Girl, it's so strong. Girl. Sure. It's so strong. So if people are finding themselves in a loop similar to mine, how do you navigate that?
Well, let me ask you this. I'm trying to get my bearings straight here with you. What comment would trigger you more? If Kevin said, you're just too sensitive, you're overreacting, or if he said, I'm the last person on your priority list, you don't even care about me. Which one of those would be more painful for you to hear?
More painful for me to hear would probably be, only because it's not true, would be if he said, I'm the last person on your priority list.
Okay. Yeah, and so if he said that to you, what would your response be?
That would be defensive. I would be like, for real, you can't be serious. You can't be serious, because clearly everything in my life literally revolves around like you and your schedule and what you do. Like it would just not be it
wouldn't be something that he would say. Okay.
Yeah. So what would happen more likely, this is what happens often. Okay. This is the cycle that we're in often, is because of the nature of the work that we do. I can offer a suggestion. You should paint this wall, this room yellow.
Mhm.
All the reasons why it's a terrible idea. Every reason, in fact, why it's a terrible
Great.
idea.
You would say this, and then he
I
would.
say you should paint this room yellow. He
Okay.
gives me all the reasons why it's a terrible idea and why he shouldn't do it. And it's just not the best idea. He walks outside and Sister Cucumber says, you know what I think is a good idea? You should paint that room yellow. And now it's the best idea.
Oh man.
Oh, just let me
Okay.
tell you why you're the smartest person on the planet. And let me tell you, and then after it's painted, right? Because he'll do it now. The person who gets the credit for the yellow room is
Mhm.
not me.
I see.
Okay, that's one example. Another example is this isn't a real life example, but you'll understand the point.
Okay.
The centering of self as the hero in the story,
Mm-hmm.
when maybe we were both present, but
Okay.
in the recalling of the story,
Okay.
I'm erased.
Okay. Okay.
I am completely erased.
All right. All right.
And everything is now, look at all the things I did. So this happens a lot. And so the feeling of being overlooked, not being seen, these are words I say all the time. You don't see me, you don't hear me, you don't understand, you don't recognize my contribution. Really big contributions. I understand what you represent to me in my life all day long. But when we're talking about like, you just said you did that, but in real life, I was the one who picked him up and sat that here, or I was the one, it's that kind of thing. And it drives me crazy because it feels like I don't matter.
Okay, there we go. I was going to say, what is the meaning there? If you were to say paint the room yellow and he says Miss Cucumber says to paint the room yellow, what meaning do you make of that? And what you just said is the meaning is I don't matter to you.
Yes.
I'm invisible.
I'm invisible. My contributions don't matter. What I have to say holds no weight with you.
Right.
Or that what I say to you needs to be validated by other people before it holds weight.
Okay. And meaning you're not being validated.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And so when you get this feeling and this trigger, right? This is a big one for you. This is all of a sudden, I don't think I matter to Kevin. I don't feel validated. There's other people out there that are more important to him. And then what happens in your body?
There is a lot of, I vacillate back and forth. Hold on, before we move on, we're going to take a break here from Love Our Sponsors. All right, we're taking a break from this episode to tell you about Noom. Kevin and I have literally decided, I mean this for real, that we are going to get into the best shape of our lives for our 40th birthday. I'm so excited because generally speaking, I don't work out all that much, but that's okay because Noom doesn't make me feel bad about it. And that's what I love about Noom. At the end of the day, we are human. We make mistakes. No day is the same. Your energy levels goes up, it goes down. You have to pick up the kids today. You don't got to pick them up tomorrow. Every day is different. And so you want a workup program that is going to be flexible with you, but also not make you feel bad when you don't or can't. You simply cannot do the things that you committed to do. Not that you've given up and thrown in the towel, but maybe today just isn't the day that you could do it. For example, I told you guys at the beginning of the episode, we flew from Jacksonville to Savannah to Atlanta, ended up staying the night in Savannah, and then came home. Guess what that means? I'm tired today. So that means that working out is not probably on my agenda, and that's okay. They use a psychology-based approach to find a healthier balance that's moldable to your life, that's flexible. And the result is it's more sustainable and you don't feel bad and you don't give up because you miss one day. Because how many of us do that? Ever since using Noom, honestly, I feel a lot less stress. Working out gives me a better mood and I just have better energy and I feel better in my skin because I know I'm doing right by it. So start building better habits for healthier long-term results. Sign up at for your trial at noom.com/love hour. That's Noom, NOOM.com/love hour. Start building better habits for healthier long-term results. Sign up for your trial at noom.com/love hour. That's Noom, NOOM.com/love hour. Also want to tell you about SkillShare. They are a sponsor of today's episode. Every human was born to create. You have creative genes inside of you. Even if you're like me and it took you a little while to learn and accept that you're a creative person, that's okay, because SkillShare is here. They are an online learning community that empowers you to accomplish real growth. The most recent class I took was TikTok for Everybody. Script, shoot, and upload your first TikTok by a gentleman named Josh. You guys, TikTok is the wave, okay? It is definitely the way of the future. And as a person who is constantly trying to grow their audience on social media, I understand the importance of TikTok as a platform. And so that's the class that I'm taking, because honestly, I feel like TikTok is a thing for a younger generation, child. And I just said I'm trying to work toward 40, and now I'm trying to TikTok. Child, it's a lot, okay? It's a lot, okay? Explore your creativity at Skillshare.com/love hour and get a free 1-month trial of premium membership. That's 1 month of premium membership at Skillshare.com/love hour. Again, explore your creativity at Skillshare.com/love hour and get a 1-month free trial of premium membership. And now let's get back to the show. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors. So what happens in my body often, and this is not just with Kevin, I recognize this as a trigger with a lot of people, but I have a very shrink mode. This is why I'm doing this. So It's like, oh, if I'm invisible or if I don't matter, then let me make myself small. Okay. So I will, this is honestly, I've recognized this as well. This is, oh, Melissa, to prevent yourself, listen to me clearly now, Julie, I'm about to tell on myself for all my audience, y'all. I'm about to
We're
tell
right here. There's nothing I haven't heard.
Not if. To protect myself from being invisible from other people, I will make myself invisible, so at least I own it. Okay, right. So if I make myself invisible, other people can't hurt me by making me invisible. Right. So I'm going to hurt myself before anybody else can do it. Yeah, I don't call it hurt though, Julie. I call it protection. Well, okay. Protection from hurt. Protection from hurt. Yeah. Okay. So what happens is you have this horrible feeling come up in your body. Yes. You feel invalidated. The meaning is I don't matter to my husband. I don't matter to my loved one. Yes. It's devastatingly painful. You shrink in and you go invisible. And what are you hoping for? You're hoping for to protect yourself, right? Okay. And so what happens for Kevin? How does he pick up that this is going on for you? I honestly, I think more recently he has been noticing that this is, I've been able also to articulate, like, this is kind of my pattern. This is what happens for me. And it's spot on every single time. I know me so well that I know I'm gonna do it. So I think now he understands that that's what's happening. And so I think he's trying to be more aware of like, oh, let me understand Melissa's point of view. Let me hear her out. Let me, whatever the case may be. What is it that you might do or say that he would pick up on that? It's a shutdown. There's no do or say. Shutdown. Yeah, okay. No, it's a shutdown. He literally sees your body go away. Yeah, you get silent. Okay. And I wish I had him here because I would like to know what goes through his mind. My guess is I screwed up again. Oh, most certainly. When you were talking about the emotional needs, his would probably be, you said something about success, something like, I'm doing a good job. His love language is words of affirmation. Yes. So it's very much, crap, I messed up. Oh. So he's starting to understand that now and be more sensitive to it. Okay. So let me see. Let's go back before he could understand it. And let me see if I can map this out.
So he would sense you doing this shutdown, however he sensed it. He would see
Uh-huh.
you move away, you would all of a sudden not be talking, and then he's going to say to himself, oh crap, I screwed up again, I don't even know what I did wrong,
Mhm.
right? And then he's going to get all anxious, and then what's his move going to be? To kind of like try to laugh you back, or charm you back,
His
or say what's wrong with you?
it is it becomes an overcorrection.
Okay, all
So
right,
you understand what I'm trying to say?
absolutely.
Okay, good.
He starts
Uh,
trying to get you to not feel the way you're feeling by making up for it.
yes, there's a strong overconnection to
Okay.
my shutdown.
Okay. So here's what needs to happen right there. This is the
Okay.
healing point.
Okay,
When
tell me.
for couples right there, when there's this rupture, is we really need to be able to talk about what just happened emotionally, attachment need wise, right? And so one person needs to be the person to initiate it. It doesn't matter. Hopefully over the big picture it's balanced, but you need to be able to talk about, hey, in that moment, that was one of those moments where, that wound kind of welled up inside of me, where I started to not know if I mattered to you, and it was just incredibly painful to
Mhm,
me. And
mhm.
so what happened is I just wanted to kind of shut down and retreat and protect myself.
Yeah,
That's how important you are to me,
yeah,
right? And so his response right there is, I see, I get it. It was not, he doesn't have to agree that he did on purpose, but it was
yeah.
not my intention to leave you feeling that
Absolutely.
way. But I absolutely see how hurtful it is for you in those moments when you don't know that you matter to me. And I'm sorry that you went through that. And how can I help you right now? And
What
that is diving into it directly, instead of doing this indirect way of just trying to, oh, let's do the walls yellow. How about we
Yeah,
do the walls yellow? That was
yes,
your idea.
yes.
No, that
What is
that's
so
emotional
funny?
avoidance. It's avoiding the actual emotional issue that just took place.
What you've just modeled, I think, is where we are today. Or
Okay.
is more having those conversations. Part of it is my own work of recognizing, again, I didn't have the language to say, my emotional needs aren't being met, but
Sure.
I did know enough to say, I don't feel seen by you. I don't hear heard. I don't, that, whatever.
That's
And
great.
so going through that has allowed him, the space to come back and say, okay, let me be more aware. Hey, I didn't mean for that to happen. That's not, or sometimes it's not even, I apologize. Sometimes it's, you're reading this wrong, to
Mhm.
be honest. This is what was really happening. This is
Mhm.
what's going on. This is what you didn't know. This is what you didn't see. And so then it's okay, I got to shake myself. I didn't understand that. I didn't know that. I apologize. I read that wrong, and we can move on. But without that conversation, years build
Yeah.
up
Years. Yeah.
of not knowing, and so you develop that the narrative in your mind of he doesn't care, or she doesn't care, or
Absolutely.
whatever it is. And so that's the work that we are kind of right now, is recognizing, okay, this is my now emotional needs is the words I'm going to use. And so I need to be able to articulate in real time, this is what's going on. So he at least has the opportunity to either correct it or correct me.
Right. Talk about it, repair it, at least understand each other.
Yeah.
Right. Now, a couple things here. One is, what you're doing right now is the first stage of therapy, which is stabilizing the negative cycle. Instead of letting it keep going to this place where now he starts to try to overcorrect and you're still over there feeling alone because you're not really getting the real issue addressed, and then it just kind of keeps going. You're stabilizing the negative cycle, and then as we move forward, we start to try to heal old wounds, right? And I don't know how, not all couples have old wounds,
Uh-huh.
but for some couples, there's a lot of really big attachment injuries that took place that they haven't been able to address because they haven't been able to talk about things outside of a negative cycle.
That's right.
So that was a little bit of a tangent there, but I want to ask you something. Have you ever said to Kevin, what is it like for you in those moments when you say something and all of a sudden I'm gone and I'm shut down and you don't know what happens. What happens inside of you when that happens?
I'm writing this down as a question
Okay.
I shall ask him.
Okay.
I've never asked.
Yeah, well, because he is an avoidant, and so he's not really even in touch with how painful that might be for him, because
Mhm.
that's really painful for him in those moments. And we're wanting to access him emotionally too. We want to bring him to the table. So we want to get him sharing. Yeah, it's really scary for me in those moments. It's
That's
really
good.
anxious, because I don't know what happened. And it's not who gets to hurt worse.
Right.
It's, wow, this event took place and both of us got a little off guard and, got a little shaken up. And here's how it affected me. And here's how it affected me. And then he's going to start learning how to tap into his self. And it's not just going to be, how can Kevin help Melissa feel better?
Yes.
But how can Kevin communicate his own pain, which is going to help you feel closer to him?
Oh my gosh, I've been asking for this for years, and you just helped me tap into. I will ask that question directly on
Good.
tonight.
Okay.
That's so good. I love that question. And I think it's right when, I have so many thoughts. I'll take one more break to hear from the Love Hour sponsors, then we'll be right back. And lastly, I want to tell you about Ritual. Ritual is the multivitamin company that you trust. They have everything from protein powders to multivitamins to vitamins for teens, vitamins for women, vitamins for men, vitamins for women that are pregnant. They have a vitamin for you. I get up every morning and take my Ritual vitamin. I love it because it is delicious. It is plant-based. They offer 3 premium formulations for distinct life stages, as I just mentioned. Again, they have the protein shakes. They have everything that you need. And what's great is that you can get them on a subscription, which is super, super flexible to incorporate into your daily life. So I know it's summer and maybe you're doing a lot of traveling. That's okay. You don't have to cancel your subscription. You can simply modify it to adjust to your needs. I personally like the Ritual protein powders because in general, protein powders are gross. This is a fact. They're not good, but they have really great taste. They are very easy to incorporate into your daily routine, and they're just a really great foundation to establishing really great health. And again, as I'm approaching 40, these are things that's really important to me. So why not shake up your Ritual to make trying something new less scary? Ritual offers a money back guarantee if you're not 100% in love. Plus, my listeners get 10% off during your first 3 months. Just visit ritual.com/love hour to add essential protein today. That's ritual.com/love hour. And now let's get back to the show. Okay. And we are back. First of all, Julie, this is so good. Everyone is saying that this is really, really good. The thing that I really love about what happens to you is that it allows him that space in a way where you were talking about the message and the meta message. I've always intended, I think, to ask that question. I've never asked it that way. And so I get answers that be like, that's not really what I meant, but that's okay. So now I'm gonna ask it just like that. I think that's the question I need to ask. So based on the examples that I gave, are you able to say these are our attachment styles?
100%.
Okay, tell me.
You are the anxious partner, he is the avoidant partner.
Oh, I thought it was the opposite.
Many people do. And it's because so many people define and get stuck defining and read information that defines attachment style by behavior. And it's really not behavior. If we are defining attachment style by behaviors, we're going to get really confused, because what you're describing about shutting down and going inward looks like a very classic avoidant behavior, but it's driven by anxious dynamics. It's driven by, I need to feel loved and cared for. I need to feel seen. I need to know I matter to you. It's at the core of it is an abandonment fear. If I don't,
Stop.
I
You're gonna
know,
make me cry.
sorry. Well, stop it,
Oh
therapist. Bad therapist.
man.
And so it's driving, it's a rare anxious move. I don't see it a ton, but it's not, there's a different motivation to it than when an anxious partner avoids. When an avoidant partner avoids like that. Avoidant partners shut down because they genuinely want to escape the conflict. They
Ah,
genuinely want to get out of those feelings. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel overwhelmed. I don't want to feel anxious. I don't want to. So I'm just going to detach and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go in the garage and work on my car, or I'm going to appease and say what they want to hear,
ah,
or I'm going to try to fix and overcompensate. That those are avoidance strategies. And and so the anxious partner has a core fear of abandonment.
okay,
The the needs, the attachment needs that are very prominent. Now, all people have all attachment needs,
okay.
but anxious partners, they're more in touch because of their childhood experiences. They're more in touch with the need to be validated, to know they matter, to be seen, to be responded to. Avoidant partners are more in touch with, I need to be seen as getting it right. I need to know that I'm being appreciated. I need to know that my needs matter too here. Okay, now that's not, again, this stuff can be flexible, but this is what I work with day after day after day after day. I really truly see the same couple over and over and over again. It's so,
When you boil it down to the notes and
yes,
ah.
absolutely. And
Is
so
that one of the most common? I'm sorry, go ahead.
it is the most common. I am going to say a really big statement that I think a lot of people have a hard time to believe. I've never treated a couple that doesn't fall in the anxious avoidant dynamic ever. And I can give you a few reasons for that. One is that anxious and avoidance are just attracted to each other subconsciously. It just happens. It's I have a post on Instagram called anxious avoidant relationship. It's a balancing act. If
Mhm.
you you know, there's family systems theory, which is that a family system is going to balance itself out emotionally. So if you have an anxious person, that person has some emotional imbalance. I don't want to, you know, people who have an anxious and avoidant attachment styles are healthy people,
Mhm.
right? They're
Mhm.
not considered mentally ill, or it's
Yes,
not considered any kind of like personality disorder. Now, when you get
Mhm.
into the disorganized attachments, then we start to have label things, right?
Got it.
But someone who's anxious, they're they're so overwhelmed by their feelings. Their feelings are so big, and this is to varying degrees,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
As
Mhm.
people approach secure, this becomes less true. But they're so overwhelmed with their feelings, they have a hard time regulating and in moments of fear, accessing the um, I don't want to say the rational side of their brain, but their fear gets really, really big. Now,
So I always say I got this from Anatomy of Marriage, Melanie Studley. She always says she gets flooded. And
yes,
that's actually a word that I've used before, that I become so flooded with emotion. And I'm
right.
a very easy crier, if that hasn't been abundantly clear. And I hate crying. And my mind can get to racing that I'm like, I just, literally, it's like a power, like a
Right.
power off. It's so much happening. Oftentimes I do know what I want to say, but it becomes overwhelming to say. So I just rather go inward.
Let me ask you this. When you go to those places, and let's say maybe it's not even related to the relationship,
Mhm.
what does Kevin do for you?
Well, you gotta be Pacific. You gotta be Pacific because I'm in a pre and a post world.
My guess
So
is that a lot of times he can stay really rational in situations where you get really upset.
yes.
He can maybe become the voice of reason. He's better at pushing his feelings away
Oh,
and focusing on the problem
yeah,
solving
yeah,
piece.
for sure, 100%.
Okay, there you go. If you take two people who get really dysregulated under emotional stress, two anxiously attached people, it doesn't work. It's too much
Ah,
energy for a system it
got
can't
it.
be maintained. It's an unsustainable system. Now, if you
Mm,
take two people who are emotionally avoidant, see the role of the anxious partner is to close the emotional distance in the relationship. The role of the avoidant partner is to keep things from getting worse, to keep things from getting too escalated. Okay, so they're going to come in if there's some tension, they're going to come in and try to put the fire out, right? So if you have two emotionally avoidant people, there's nobody nobody's really working to maintain the connection. And as conflict comes up, nobody's talking about it and they just grow apart, right? If they even go on a date to begin with, you know.
got it.
Okay. So So trying to figure out where we stopped. It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
Oh, we want, if we have two secure people, they have more of an inner balance. They're able to have this emotional side of them and access it, but they're also have more of an ability to regulate both of them.
Uh-huh.
Nobody has to cut their emotions off and nobody has to get overwhelmed.
Got
So
it.
that's the balance in the relationship. We have two balanced people coming together and there's your balance, as opposed to one person's holding all the emotion and the other person is keeping things from getting too overwhelming.
Got it.
And so even if a person, I mean, I think that as we go down the spectrum, like from the most severe is the disorganized attachment folks, right? Those are pretty severe. Like it's pretty rigid, a lot of personality disorder overlap. And then I have a little graph here, but I know your readers can't see it. But it starts over here with disorganized. Now, if you notice that we have an avoidance spectrum, and then we have an anxious spectrum. As they go down and get healthier here into secure, then the spectrums get closer, so people can start being more flexible and going back and forth between avoidant and anxious behaviors. Even secure couples still have pursue withdraw dynamics that show up from time to time.
Got it. Okay. So, okay. This was really great. And I'm happy I have been told, because I promise you, I've been like, I don't know. I literally thought we were the opposites, but as you're describing it, I'm like, oh girl, that's in a nutshell. So if you find people that are watching this, listening to this, and they're like, okay, so Julie has just read my life. Like she just described everything that we go through. What's the first step to getting out of this? And is there a way, or what, maybe that's not the question, because I think you actually answered that. How do you move toward security? That's the question. How do you move more toward security if you find yourself anxiously attached or avoidantly attached?
Okay, so there's two ways to go about it. One is on your own, and that would be, if you're anxiously attached, learning regulation skills, learning about where this anxious attachment came from, exploring your fear of abandonment, doing a lot of inner work. There's a book called The Attachment Theory Workbook by Annie Chen, Chen, that I recommend on Instagram. A lot of people have found that to be very helpful. I think the ideal way to work on a relationship rooted issue, which is attachment, is in the context of a relationship, because that's where it's all showing up.
Got it.
That's where we have the real life, real time stuff showing up. I think that it's hard. It's going to be hard for a couple to do that on their own. I have had lots of positive feedback about people using my site that has really helped them. Now, of course, there are people at different levels of distress, right? Mm-hmm. Some people aren't going to be helped by a book or an Instagram site, and some people are. Mm-hmm. ICEFT, it's ICEEFT.com, okay, is where you can go to find their, worldwide emotion focused therapy for couple therapists. You just type in where you live and they'll give you a list. I prefer EFT because it works with attachment styles and it works with negative cycle. And there's a very clear trajectory. It's very organized. And I have a book coming out. This fall. And the goal of this book is I kind of start with presenting attachment theory, just like I did here. And then my goal, and it's left to be seen if it works or not, but my goal is to walk couples through the process that I use in my private practice. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there who don't have access to couples therapy. So it's not a replacement for couples therapy, but it's certainly an augment for people who either are in couples therapy or just, don't have access. The field is really needing people right now. There's more demand than there is supply.
Do you think the pandemic is playing a role in that too? That people are starting to go out more for therapy?
I think so, yeah, because I think any kind of stress is going to make problems worse. And then I think it's becoming less stigmatized,
Yeah.
relationship help. I mean, look at what the conversation we're able to have right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you could have had that 10 years ago on a podcast. I mean, you guys are pioneers, right?
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
yeah.
I never thought of it that way.
Seriously. I mean, the conversation is opening up. And so people are going to seek help. And yeah, so I mean, I'm hoping that we get more couples therapists. A lot of people don't want to work with couples. I'll be honest with you. Most therapists do not want to work with couples. It's an incredibly hard
I can imagine that.
type of therapy to do. Yeah.
And
So,
draining. I can imagine that. I mean, it's not the same, but I listened to Where Should We Begin by Esther Perel when she does the one shot couples therapy. And I can only listen to 2 or 3 of them at a time. And I normally binge will listen, and then I have to take a break because it's kind of a lot to
yeah.
it's a lot to take in. And
Oh,
even her one that she does about work, low key, the last one I listened to, I was like, Esther, this is work, but this is also couples, girl. That's not what I signed up for.
right.
Okay. So Julie, working toward secure attachment style,
Mhm.
being able to recognize that it is okay to kind of bounce between the two, but ultimately that would be the goal. Would be, you said ICEEFT.com.
ICEEFT.
I
And I can email this to you also.
got it.
Uh,
Okay. As a resource for therapists who use
yes.
EFT, emotionally focused therapy, the negative cycle, and I'm assuming then they would have some grounding in the attachment styles as well because it's EFT.
Yes, we learn all. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And then obviously your book that you have coming out, is there
Mhm.
anything like as I'm going through, I mean, I'm using me as an example, y'all getting therapy child through me. As I am going through my own, kind of, I don't know the right word, but I'm always looking to like be better and like be
Sure.
very like self-aware. It's kind of how I got to the point where I'm like, these are the words that I'm using. And now I know additional words and these are the
Sure.
things I should be saying. Is there anything that you see or anything that I've said where you like also add this for the people that, again, who see themselves in me?
Who see themselves. Okay.
Meaning, is
When
there
you're,
anything that you would suggest in addition?
yes. Have you heard of the book, The Body Keeps the Score?
Yes.
Okay. That is a must read.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't
Must.
read it, but I have heard of it.
If you're telling me, that you feel flooded, um, I highly recommend somatic experiencing therapy, which is kind of the book. The author of The Body Keeps the Score is very much tied in with the somatic experience. So it's somatic, SOMATIC, and then the second word is experiencing, and it's traumahealing.org. Doesn't mean you have to have any kind of significant trauma. It's a way, like traditional talk therapy is wonderful, but it hits a wall because talking can become a defense against feeling, and feelings happen in the body. So
Ooh,
somatic.
hey, nope, 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 nope. Say it one more time. Talking can be a defense against feelings.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when you're going to a somatic experiencing therapist, here's what they do. So you just tell me anything. Start talking about something that's important to you that you might want to tell a therapist, or make something up.
I will make something up instead because I don't feel like crying. I want to talk about that my sisters get on my nerves because that's not true at all.
Okay, so slow down. Slow
Okay.
down, because I can tell what happens right at that moment when you say your sister's getting on your nerves. What comes up in your body? Do you notice
Um,
tension? Okay, so
well,
that's just an example of.
I was like, I don't know. What did I feel?
Okay, so in traditional talk therapy, you're going to go in and they're going to ask you all about your sister, and you're going to tell all the story, and they're going to get all the details, and they're going to want to know, how does this relate to your past, and blah blah blah, and it's all very useful. But it hits a wall and it stops being effective at some point. And the
Got it.
reason for that is the feelings are happening in here. So they go through the body to get to the processing instead of going through the brain. It's amazing.
Okay.
It's the new edge, the cutting edge. That and psychedelics are the cutting edge of.
Okay.
So
listen, if y'all have questions, y'all got about 2 more minutes and I got to let Miss Julie go.
This book is a must for everybody. Hold Me Tight by Sue Johnson.
I was going to say, I've seen that cover before. It's Sue Johnson. That's why.
Yeah, definitely. If you're interested in what I've had to say today, read this book for certain.
Okay, Julie. So this is the thing. You a little bit read me a little bit when you said talking is a defense mechanism from feelings. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to understand how I feel about that. I have a lot of, my body's doing a lot of this right now, kind of gnawing on that thought, and I have to figure out how I feel about it. But I do understand the thought that you can overtalk yourself instead of actually dealing with your feelings. So I'm going to think about that.
Yeah. And it doesn't, I think you said it better than I did. You can over talk. Talking isn't bad. Talking is wonderful, but if you're in a therapeutic situation and you're really wanting to learn to regulate your nervous system, the way to go about it isn't to talk so much that you're overriding the actual feelings that are taking place.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to think about that some more. The other thing is that might be hard. They don't have any, can you cover examples of, that's exactly where I was going to go. The other thing that I struggle with, and we can end on this note, is not feeling like I had a very traumatic childhood. And so reconciling like abandonment as an example with my childhood, immediately that's not clear to me. So away from me, more generically, can you give examples of what a childhood may look like for anxious, abandoned, and maybe disorganized? I don't know if you want to go there, but definitely the first two. And we can hit on that.
Absolutely. And I think I could do this fairly quickly. So first of all, we have a difference between the disorganized categories of insecure attachment and the organized ones. People who are organized, they didn't have to have horrible childhoods. Avoidance, they'll tell you they have the greatest childhood in the whole entire world. Like you would think nothing ever went wrong in their childhood. Anxious tend to be a little more in touch with some things that didn't go well. What defines an anxious and avoidant, insecure, attached parenting style is insensitivity sometimes, enough of the time. So for anxious kids, what that looks like is they aren't 100% sure that their parent is going to respond to them when they need their parent. So basically, they have to develop some strategies to get the parent's attention. It sounds to me like one of your, just hearing what we're talking about or what you've told me, one of your strategies would be, will make myself invisible or be compliant and not rock the boat and to stay in good graces, right?
Stop reading me, Julie.
Yeah. So some anxious children are going to cry to be held. They're going to act helpless. Some anxious children are going to show anger or have a fit. And that's kind of a guarantee that they can get their parent to come over and respond.
Got it.
Just going up and saying, Mommy, I need a hug isn't going to do it. Mommy might say, okay, I know I'm busy. Okay, blah, 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 but they have to develop these kind of alternate ways to get the parent's responsiveness. Avoidant kids, on the other hand, the parent rebuffs them or rejects them or just kind of ignores their bids for connection. And so what the avoidant kids learn to do is they learn to distract with other things close to the parents, proximity wise. So they learn it's kind of a second best. It's like, all right, well, I can be close to mom and I can distract with these toys and kind of distract from the fact that I want more than I'm actually getting and stuff it down and still kind of maintain some closeness there. So it's more of an insensitivity than it is abuse or trauma. And to be honest with you, and I have really recently learned this, even those with a disorganized attachment do not have to have been traumatized as children. They just have to have parents with unresolved trauma. And it just transmits, and I won't go into there's multiple different pathways that you can get to a disorganized attachment. But the degree to which a parent was insensitive is the degree to which a person is going to have their insecure attachment style. And
Okay.
so you can have, I mean, honestly, people can have wonderful childhoods and still have an insecure attachment because of certain little things here and there. You know, I never ever want to take away from the goodness of a person's childhood, and some people have terrible childhoods too. I want to validate that, but I never want to take away from the goodness. My job is, let's look at what worked and let's look at what didn't work. And where it didn't work, let's fix it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you are saying that a child that is a good student and is a star child and does all the really great things and has good girl syndrome could also wind up in the, what'd you call me, avoidant,
Anxious.
anxious.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That would be an example of probably over compliance, being good girl. I don't know, maybe you're a caretaker of many people in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that is definitely a sign of anxiousness. And I don't want to take away from caretaking at all. It's a beautiful thing. As humans, that's what we're supposed to care for each other. It's when it starts to become at the expense of self-care, too much, too imbalanced, that it starts to become anxiety driven. And if you were put into the position too early of having to role reverse with your take care of younger siblings or take care of your mom, that's a classic anxious dynamic right there.
Oh, child. Okay, so listen, everybody listen. Y'all, do y'all feel red? I feel a little bit red on today. I feel a little bit red on today. All the business was out on Front Street on today. But I think this is really, 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 really good. I learned my attachment style, which was great. The opposite of what I thought it was, which was even better. I also am going to go to ICEEFT.
ICEEFT, yes.
Okay, .com. I think I'm gonna fire the therapist we have now currently because I was already on the fence about them anyways, and this just gave me the confirmation that I do. The Body Keeps the Score as the book, Somatic Experiencing Therapy.
Yes.
Okay.
And don't forget Hold Me Tight.
Hold Me Tight by Sue Johnson.
Yes. And if you go to my Instagram site, I have a resources highlight, and I also have some other books I recommend there.
Okay, got it. Because this was freaking amazing. Someone said this was so rich. That's so churchy, but it was so rich. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm hoping everyone did, but our comments here are telling me that they most certainly did. So I appreciate you, Julie, for taking time out of your day to spend with us. I greatly appreciate this. I'm going to do some research and do some body stuff. I actually think you're right, because with everything that I know, and I'm by no means an expert, I do, and I've told Kevin this, I'm like, I feel like there's a certain wall that I've hit. And I wouldn't have been able, I always thought it was just the therapist, honestly, but I feel like maybe I just need a different type of therapy.
Yeah. And that's really where the field is moving right now, out of, and I am a talk.
This isn't bashing.
It's not bashing at all. There's room for everyone, but I think we need to break through that wall, and that's the somatic piece and the attachment piece.
Got it.
And big things are going to happen in the world within the next decade, because all of this research has been being done with both the attachment and the somatic pieces for many decades, since the 40s, and it's all starting to become mainstream. And I get chills just saying that, because I do think it's going to really help us, as humans. I have a lot of hope for that. So,
oh my God, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Listen, Julie, I appreciate you so much. One last time, for the people who are interested in following you on Instagram, I'm going to pull it up just to make sure we say it right. But I think it's The Secure Attachment, right?
No, The Secure Relationship.
Yep, you're right. Obviously, you're
Yeah,
right. It's your Instagram.
totally. Well, you would be surprised. I mean, I was going to add .com. I also have a website where you can pre-order the book, which is
I will do that.
.com. And then I also am on the other things, YouTube, Facebook, but somebody else does all that. So yeah. All
Okay.
I do is Instagram. I do Instagram and I write books and I do these kinds of things. And so
This
yeah.
has been great. Her Instagram has tons of like diagrams. I'm constantly reading them, to be honest. You guys know one of my main goals with this podcast is to provide words. This is what I always say. I like to provide words to people's feelings because I feel like for so long I had so many feelings and I didn't know how to articulate them. And it's part of the reason I consume so much information is to be able to identify and articulate what's going on, what am I feeling, how do whatever. And so I'm hoping that this episode was able to provide a lot of words for people's feelings today. Go to her website, find the graphic. I'm going to try to find it and post it in my story that has the emotions, the emotional.
I have a few actually on that, and I have one that's like 10 pages long. So if you want, I can just DM them to you and you know
Okay.
exactly which ones they are.
Perfect. That'll work. So I can send
go
them.
into more detail than others.
Yes. And that way you guys, again, if you guys are like, I have these feelings too, and I feel emotionally empty or that my needs aren't being met, reading that, I'm sure will be able to provide you some words to have that conversation with your partner. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure. You're beautiful and wonderful and funny and
thank you.
All the good stuff. So
thank you. All right, you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Until the next Love Hour episode. Bye.